All right, how is everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So, what I want to get into today is, are you good at helping others but not good at helping yourself? And I think tons of people fall under this category. And I find it that I've even been in those situations before because I think, like a lot of us, we always want to help others. And when somebody comes to us and needs help, we want to help them for the most part, or we want the best for them. And we'll try our best, at least within our own powers, to help this person. But for some reason, when it comes to helping ourselves get through certain things, we can't seem to break that barrier, if that makes sense. And what I want to get into on this podcast is for people to understand a lot of times you need to focus in on yourself to get through whatever you need to get through, not always getting caught up in everybody else's bullshit. Because some people use other people's bullshit as an excuse to not put their own life in gear or get their own life straight, because they're always like, well, I have no time for that. I have, it could be a husband, a wife, my kids, my grandkids. I got to take care of them. I got to make sure they get this. I got to make sure they get that. And I got to do this for them and do that for them. And it becomes it's a wonderful thing wanting to help people. But I also think what happens a lot of times, it destroys people. And I always say helping people is the number one thing that's what I even created this podcast for. And I created a year-round app that I haven't finished. It's really to help people in a time of need. And so when I say this, I don't want to offend people and tell anybody to neglect whoever needs help. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a lot of times people, first of all, you don't want to become an enabler, obviously, and make people have to depend on you, which I think a lot of people do, especially with kids. They don't kick them in their ass, or with other people where they love helping this person, but they almost go to the point where they're constantly in a position where they have to help them, or they should put the hammer down and say, listen, it's time to move on. Throw the bird out of the nest a little bit. Time for them to learn how to help themselves. But at the same time, the person helping them all the time, they need to do the same thing to themselves. Because it's easy to kind of be distracted by always helping people. And a lot of times helping others, even financially or whatever the case may be, and I just did a podcast on this. It's called Being in Love and Being Under a Spell. There's a big difference. And I think a lot of times, again, helping others, you may be in a relationship where you're constantly helping this other person. It could be financially, emotionally, whatever the case may be. And at the same time, no one's there for you. But you always have to take care of this other person, right? And I call that, and that doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means sometimes you're under a spell, under their spell. And a lot of times, especially a lot of guys, I think, I don't speak for women, but a lot of men get taken advantage of because they don't want to accept or learn how to say, no, I can't help you anymore. I keep helping you, and actually you keep hurting both of us, or you keep hurting yourself, but it doesn't seem to be moving forward. You've got to have, progress, obviously moving forward. But it's got to be a unit. That's a relationship style. But what I'm talking about just in general with yourself is, I have a saying too, it's the minute you realize you don't need anyone to complete you is when you are. A lot of times when we're helping people, we get a lot of satisfaction out of that, which is amazing. And I'm 100% down with that. I really believe like doctors are the quintessential person who is always, I know they make a lot of money, but even when I had my daughter's liver transplant and stuff, like doctors they do amazing things. It's easy for people to hurt other people, physically, emotionally, anything. But it's not easy to heal people, right? And doctors heal people. Plus, a lot of times, if you look at a doctor, even in an ER, say somebody bad comes in who shot somebody or they got in a shootout or whatever, they actually try to save this person's life, which is amazing, even though they may know that person's a bad person or has done damage to other people or is whatever the case may be. They don't get caught up in that, which is an amazing gift, I think, because I don't know if I'd have it. If somebody came in that I know just did something, say they're whatever they just did, shot somebody or shot a few people or did this, and then they come in there and they're injured, I'd be like, this guy just did this to these people. Why would I help this person? But they do it. It's an amazing thing. But I look at doctors a lot of times and I almost want to have that same attitude where I want to help people and not constantly judge them. Because I think a lot of times we're constantly judging people, the judgers or the analyzers, I call us. But I do want to help people. But again, I have found myself in positions where I kept helping someone, and for some reason they just didn't want to help themselves, and I had to pull out. And I've also put myself in positions, which I don't think a lot of people want to admit, where I didn't even mean to take advantage of somebody, but I ended up in that position where now I depended on them, and I couldn't help myself regarding certain things, which is ridiculous. And I had to learn from that. For one, never to put myself in that position, but never to put somebody else in that position as well. And I think that's the one thing a lot of people don't realize is we all need help regarding a lot of things in life. But sometimes mistakes are made, and you may have thought you were doing something right. It could be even borrowing money or having somebody co-sign for you or somebody getting involved in a business project, and it fell apart, and that just happened. But sometimes you have to realize you know better a lot of times when you're doing something where you put somebody else at risk. You got to really pay attention to that. That's not fair to that person. You do not want to ever take advantage, I think, of anyone. And that's, the same on the flip side. Don't let somebody else obviously do that to you as well. Sometimes I feel like a preacher on this damn show. Like all of a sudden I'm on the podcast. This was supposed to be crazy and funny shit I was supposed to be doing with different people, which I'm going to start doing. And I've been saying recently, and it's almost like my podcast is almost became like where I'm speaking out to a shrink or some sort. Like I'm expressing all these things that I've wanted to tell people or teach people, I guess, that I've learned over the years. And a lot of things I say may not even be right. I may be wrong as much as I'm right. But I think a lot of things that I do say can touch a nerve with a lot of people, because I think I do. When I do speak to people and I just relatively just off the cuff or with people I know, they're like, wow, Rich, I never thought about it this way. And then they tell me something and I never thought about it that way either. So it's always a learning process. And then I come to the podcast and then I discuss these things. And being taken advantage of. But you really, again, I understand you want to help people, but really, I think about life. What did we really train our brain to be? And I talk about programming all the time because we are programmed from a child all the way up. Everybody that was in our life, that's been in our life, I mean from the beginning of your life to now, has touched you in one way or another. Good, bad, you've learned things. Some things disgusted you. Some things you gravitated towards. Especially when you were younger, you learned your language, you learned your culture. Everything is because of your programming. But as you got older, for some reason, even if things were good or bad, what were you training your brain to be or become? Right? Were you training it to be exactly like what your environment kept telling you to be? Or did you kind of break out and say, F that? Because as well as I do, a lot of people that were raised in very religious environments freak out and end up rock stars or end up in porn, hypothetically, or end up wherever. And then you have other people that were in horrible environments that end up preachers, or people that are, change the world. They end up at Harvard, hypothetically, extremely educated, and they came from real bad surroundings. So what did you actually do to train your brain, and did it get you to where you want to be? And did you train your brain to help others and not to make yourself feel good, but at the same time, not really pay attention to what it was doing to you, if that makes sense? Also, if you need help, a lot of times people don't reach out. And I think I call it being paralyzed. I believe everybody needs help regarding something. I don't care what it is. I think for most people to progress forward. Now, you can be, introverted, or you can be whatever, but no matter what, I don't care if we go to Starbucks today. I don't care if you go to McDonald's. I don't care if you're sitting in your home. You have electricity, most likely. You have an electrical guy if you have cable, you have a cable man that comes and helps you. I don't care what you do. You can't do it all. Especially if you work somewhere, you always need help. Wi-Fi, whatever. All these things, people are working to give you things that you have. And I think we all need to appreciate that. So, again, these are just things that I want to kind of make a short podcast out of this one. This isn't going to be some long-term run-on rant. But yes, if you are, if really look at yourself, step outside yourself and say, what did I train myself to be? Mentally, emotionally, physically, because I don't think people pay as much attention to themselves as they do everyone else. And that's especially people letting others aggravate them, or them always just paying attention, getting more caught up in everybody else's life and never really looking at their own. And if you are in that situation, take a step back. You may need time. I spent 7, 8 years alone after my divorce. Best thing I ever did. I just wrote a couple books, bunch of screenplays. And if you've ever, I don't think most people spend enough time alone. And if you do start to spend a lot of time alone, in your mind, you'll start realizing that you were very cluttered and you were kind of on a belt, a conveyor belt or whatever, where you kind of a lot of times didn't realize you kept doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes it led to success, and a lot of times I think it may have led to failure. But now when you're by yourself just thinking, and even if you go to a gym and you go into a sauna, just sit there and think. Think about really who you are, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. Because I think a lot of people want to do a lot of different things. They just don't know how to go about it. Or they're too caught up doing everything else. That's just kind of like, you have 24 hours in a day. What are you really doing with the 24 hours? I understand you're working if you have kids, or if you have projects you're working on, all these other things. Really start to think about who you are and what you really want to get done. And don't let anybody stop you from creating things that you want to create. And I don't even mean that from an artist's point of view. It could be even inside your house. You want to lay new carpet yourself or put tile in, or you want to learn how to paint, or you want to do things. Don't let people either, tell you can't do it or make you feel bad that you do want to do it. And I think a lot of people have been programmed to say, if you take a lot of time out for yourself to do the things you like, you're selfish. And I don't get that at all. What the fuck are you living for if you can't do what you want to do? That makes absolutely no sense. Now, I'm not telling you to go out like if you have a family and you have a mortgage and you have all these different things going on, and all of a sudden say, yeah, you know what, who gives a shit about that? I'm going to start doing what I want to do. I understand there's different responsibility factors. But what I'm saying is, if you have things that you want to do or you need help trying to get things done, don't be afraid to ask or learn. And I talk about this in my Mastering Self-Confidence program regarding identity. A lot of us have this certain identity, and we're afraid we don't want to change it because we're afraid people are going to look at us differently now. So we're kind of stuck in a rut. And I'm not telling anybody has to change your identity, but to make changes in your life, you're going to most likely be changing your identity. And there's nothing really wrong with that, as long as you're not hurting others. That's what I should say. But don't be fearful if you all of a sudden said, hey, you know what, I want to write poetry. And you may be thinking in your head, if I do this, how are they going to look at me now? Who gives a shit? And if you don't know how to do it, find somebody who can help you. But do what internally you want to do, right? To make yourself happy is what I should say. So, but yeah, definitely start. I think spending time alone was the best thing that ever happened to me. I think as we get older, we just keep getting more cluttered and cluttered and cluttered. And we also clutter ourselves with technology, because before, I think even when I was younger, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have as many channels on television. We didn't have all these different things that we have now, which we can actually just continuously keep filling our day with, which a lot of it is not moving us forward. It's actually just a distraction. And social media could be one of those things in a big way. Our cell phones, because if you sit back and really think about it, what did you really accomplish today? And did you accomplish the things you wanted to accomplish? So I'm going to wrap it up there. But don't let anybody take advantage of you. That's one thing I'm going to tell you. And if you want to help others, wonderful. Just make sure a lot of times you're not hurting yourself. Please protect yourself, because the only one who's going to look out for you is you. I got a news flash for you. I mean, you may have parents that love you. You may have kids that love you. But at the end of the day, you're going to be making decisions that are setting a path for the rest of your life. Are they going to be good or bad? And a lot of times, again, helping people in certain situations, sometimes you just got to learn how to say no. And other times you got to be like, absolutely. But don't get out of your comfort zone. Be very careful, especially with people that you really don't know that you want to help. I think they usually get taken advantage of, especially in relationships. Take your time if you're getting in a relationship with a woman or a man or someone you just met. I really get into that in my program, because a lot of times you do not know what type of person they are. You don't know their motives. They may not have your best interest, even though they may be pretending to. They may be performing. And a lot of times I know people, especially men, think they're not going to get taken advantage of, and before you know it, they do. So, don't be co-signing for shit that you can't afford if they leave you. Don't put yourself on a lease by yourself, if you can't afford to. Don't be buying things for other people that you can't pay, all these type of things. Just please protect yourself, okay? All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Did I already wrap it up? I don't even know. I'll say it again. Who gives a shit? So, I don't think I did, but maybe I did. I'm so nuts. Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel, Rich CELENZA. I get into more fitness and travel affordably type things like that all over North America. I try to help men mainly, but women too, regarding those subjects. I have this podcast, and I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and what else are we on? Instagram. So I'm on there as well, and I have that program that I was just talking about, Mastering Self-Confidence, and it's a blueprint to try to help men find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. Guys, I know it's hard going through certain things in your life, and this program has 45 hours, not including bonus material, to try to help you in many different things. And relationship advice is one of them, but I really want to help men master their confidence, to learn to also say yes when they can say yes, and no when it's no, and mean it, not be taken advantage of. Learn how to build relationships and friendships with women and men, so it's not just strictly about finding women or anything in that nature. It's not a pickup artist style, but you can use it for that. But I get into all different things too, all different things, so it's not just some kind of hoity-toity bullshit relationship advice thing. I get into a lot of things, which include porn, which include a lot of different things. I'm not going to get into it that I think a lot of people would shy away from discussing, which I don't. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up there. I wish you nothing but the best. Take care and safe travels if you're traveling.